So there's an Illinois everbearing mulberry that I'm trying to root. There's another one there with bud break. Let's see if I can see the other piece. There's one right there with bud break. I mentioned that because on my last video where we were digging and we finally got our potting soil, I said, well, it's kind of too dark. Or maybe I didn't say that. It was too dark to really like reach in there and show you those guys. And I was saying that sometimes you'll get cuttings and they'll break bud. They'll even produce some leaves and stuff, maybe even some little mulberries from fruit buds, but they won't be rooted. And then, you know, they're just using their energy reserves to push out those buds, and then they die because they don't root. Let's hope those guys are rooted, because I have people that want them. And I sort of found out what this plant here was that we got at that market, the farmer's market, like a year or two back. This is called blue sage. And it has a few other names. It has a few medicinal qualities for, I guess, like skin sores and ulcers and stuff. You can make a paste, I guess, that goes on your skin, or you can, I guess, make something where you can take it orally. There's also some like antifungal stuff that, but I don't think you can just use in the leaves that you can just use, you know. I think you have to process it in a certain way, maybe chemically. Back at this squash, zucchini, whatever, and I sort of looked up the issue of why these female flowers abort before they even get open or whatever. And there's apparently a myriad of reasons. It doesn't seem like any of them are disease related. Too much water, too little water, too much sun, too much shade, something. And they don't get pollinated. Or I guess the tree knows, despite having some male flowers, that it's not going to get pollinated, so it doesn't even open the flower up. It doesn't really make sense to me, but that's sort of how they explained it on one of the articles I read. Remember, we had a drought, then we had flooding, then we had hurricanes, you know, and so everything probably set it back. I mean, it's not full of male flowers like last season. You probably would have had hundreds of male flowers before those female flowers emerged and opened up. Can it still produce, you know, fruit? Is squash a fruit? I don't know. Can it still produce some sort of squash before freezes come? Or is it just destined for failure this year? Another like red maple there. You know, these guys get so diseased, it, you know, broke off probably a month or a few months ago and finally kind of fell. So we need to try to get that, and that's going to be more raised bed material. Like this Charlie's Golden Autumn Olive is doing all right. Maybe a little bit stressed, but hopefully it'll recover fully. This is the one we planted in this, one of our first raised beds we built, kind of in a hugelkultur style, but also with a walls on it. This is where the other autumn olive is. So the other one liked it here, so hopefully this guy will like it as well. This is the first time I've been out here in this like wetland zone 2 area since Hurricane Milton hit, because it was a little bit too flooded to just, you know, go in my shoes and get them ruined. But I can see from a distance there that avocado's still looking pretty good. The kids got 5 days off this week because of Hurricane Milton. Wednesday and Thursday, they probably could have went back Friday, but that was Monday was going to be teachers planning day, so I guess the school didn't want to waste one of those days, so they swapped, you know, teachers planning day to Friday so that the kids don't miss Monday, you know, to make up for all these hurricane days they had. Well, I see some tree damage there, but I don't know if that's from Milton or Helene. It looks like, is that a magnolia there? Got like cut in half, and then there's some other like oak trees down there, or pieces. That's past our property line in the kind of forest back. Seeing some pine but not full of trees. Pretty nice little limbs though. There's a little mini lemon. Just a few minutes ago, we had a lot of fog over there in these open field areas, but it looks like it's lifting now. You might see a little bit of haze back there, but it's almost gone. Don't really see a sign of flower buds on these Suriname cherries yet. I forget exactly what month they bloom, but it's usually in the winter time or fall. So I'm back out in the front section here where I have a lot of potted plants, and it's hard to get out even in the mornings. Kids call me daddy, daddy, but this time it was kind of for a real reason. Our middle son last week had some kind of virus, throwing up, major headache. So it started with a headache. He got over it. Now our youngest son, yesterday morning early, I got a headache. He didn't throw up all day. He went to the park and played hard. Then when he got home and ate and all that, probably past sundown, nighttime or whatever, he just started throwing up. So same exact symptoms. So there's 3 more people in the house that could potentially get that, which is going to suck if I get it and Natalie gets it and our oldest son. If our oldest son gets it, he's going to have a doctor's note probably. That means taking him to the ER or to his physician to say, hey, he's got some kind of virus. He's got to be out for a day or two. Anyway, a lot of these mulberries and figs that we just got, we still have them in small pots, mainly because they didn't have much roots on them. We're going to let them grow out a little bit before we upsize them to a gallon or whatever. We probably have a few houseplants that need to be upsized, though. We pulled a few of our larger loquat seedlings up to pot up. Right, so we got, I think, 3 gallons. That might be 2 gallons. That might be like a gallon and a half. And that's one gallon. Plan to just get 3 gallon ones. And some of these in the 3 gallon containers have a small enough root system. They probably would have fit in a 1 gallon, but we just grabbed what we had. This will give these 3 gallon and 2 gallon containers, other plants, their roots, room to grow a little bit. Maybe they'll grow a little bit faster in those containers versus a smaller one where it'll probably just shoot a root through the ground and then stress out when we have to break the root from the pot. We have tons and tons more seedlings, probably anywhere from the even lower than 1 gallon size, possibly up to 3. And I do have random seedlings that are probably 4 or 5 gallon sizes that are just spread out in places that aren't easily accessible. But this is going to be the start of giving back to the community, because we're going to try to pot up a big majority of our loquats, and some of them we're going to keep for grafting experiments and stuff. But and if we get good at grafting, we can use that for trading material. But a lot of these loquats, the 1 gallon and smaller ones, if not all of them, will be given away to the garden community. If we can safely pull up some of the ones that are not in an ideal location and salvage them and save them, then we'll probably get some of them as well. I haven't had the best experiences with pulling them out of ground and keeping them alive. But hey, this is a new year, right? Well, it's almost the next year, but it's a new time. This is years later. I'm going to put these probably in a shady spot, make sure they're moist, and let them heal where any of the roots have torn and stuff like that. And these were already sort of in shade by home, by trees. So they probably would not do well in just getting them out here stressed out from the transplant and going into full sun. I gave it a light water, and I got a little tiny one that was just pulled up with the big ones. It was just attached to the root there. And I put in a small, what's that, a 3x3 pot or something? 4 pot. I could have just pulled all of them and just scrambled to find pots and worked all day long, but I knew Natalie's not going to like that, just for loquats. But we do have other things. We got some mulberries that are not in the best spot. Probably need to get them out and pot them up. I think we're probably going to do some jewels of opar, probably some Suriname spinach, because we have very few Suriname spinach. We got jewels of opar everywhere. They're probably more of an invasive pest than anything, but I don't think the Suriname spinach is as bad as like throwing seeds everywhere. But both of them are very similar. They have the same uses. So we want to make sure we have things for the community, and we'll may even do sweet potato slips as well. Even though we're going to be getting frost in the next month or two or whatever, probably. People just have to keep them warm that first season in the greenhouse or whatever. The North American purple sweet potatoes probably aren't all that prevalent in the area. You can't easily find them anytime you want from the grocery store or anything to propagate them with the plants from. But we have some in a pot that are overgrown. Definitely not going to produce anything for us this year. We should have put something in the ground, but we didn't. So we need to put some stuff in the ground. We need to root and propagate more for ourselves, for the community, and give those guys away. Like a film form up in this fairly new stink water bucket here. Probably yeast and stuff, and there's probably some movement and bubbles starting to happen. It's a fermentation process. Yeah, I just seen a bubble. Not a lot yet, but hey, that guy's working. This newest one, doesn't have enough water yet. That we use those, what do you call them, arrow vines or whatever they're called, and keep an eye on it. I wish we could get all these cherry laurels, like every bit of them, into that fermenter and just make nutrients from them. But we don't have a barrel big enough for all the tons and tons of cherry laurel leaves and limbs and stuff. So we just have to use them for beds, for compost. They take a long time if they're like airy like this, and there's a lot of air in between the limbs. But when you push them down, break them into smaller bits, put heavier, more dense, like grasses and weeds on top, put your nutrient drenches on it to, encourage those insects and bacteria and earthworms to dig all around there and eat everything up a little bit faster. That's when these guys break down a little bit faster. And the fungal growth as well. It would be nice if we had unlimited access to free potting soil, wouldn't it? But, even when we run out of containers, it's going to be an issue. So I'm definitely looking at these grow bags as a potential alternative. They're pretty cheap. They air prune. So your roots don't grow, or not supposed to grow, through the bag into the soil. So as the roots, I guess, hit the edge of the bag, they just dry up and die. That's also a possible problem with the bags, is they don't hold moisture as well. So they dry out and need more watering. But something maybe like mulberries that have vigorous, super root growth on them, that you want to grow out. These guys might be an option, and they say they can last like 2 to 5 years if you don't rip them, and I guess they're easily rippable. But hey, it might be way cheaper than buying plastic containers, and some of those rot in one season. They start ripping and cracking, and that's it. When and where are we going to plant this other grafted mayhaw, this double G? Let's take a look at our cherry of Rio Grande here. It's probably triple or quadruple the size since we first got it, but it's still, 22 inches, 24 inches tops. And I was looking for a bigger one. The guy I got this from, the nursery, advertised 5-gallon sizes for like $40. I inquired about them. I said, I want something a little bit closer to fruiting size. I mean, he says, I don't have any left. But even at the 5-gallon size, I think they are still pretty long away from flowering and fruiting. They take a while to fruit. And that's kind of why I wanted more than one. Because when this guy's, starts fruiting, if we want more, we might have to wait 5 years or more for it to fruit again, to get another, to use the seeds from its fruit to propagate and make more. So it'd be nice if we had like 2 or 3 or 5 of these guys. I really don't want to pay $20+ for a little tiny one like that again, to have to wait another 5+ years. I think we'll probably have a few extra hibiscus plants as well to give away soon. And over time, if they do well for us and survive the winters and come back, we'll have seedlings, and do cutting grown plants. Some of the hibiscus species don't always come back after a good freeze here. So do we take some in, or do we plant some in one of our mycorrhizal type beds where the roots are sort of kept warm? So even if it dies down to the ground, or it's still going to shoot out new roots. This is an option, because we plan to have more beds. We have plenty of beds, and we can always put something like this, not as a main tree, but just put it to the side, maybe even a banana mound or anything like that. I need to get more plant labels. I have some somewhere, but they could be long gone, so I need to plant labels, look into those grow bags, and see what we have. Now I know I'm going to have plenty of like Mexican sunflowers and probably many more throughout the years. Cassava, although there's a excess surplus of cassava usually, because 1 or 2 people in Gainesville distribute like hundreds of cassava canes for people to plant out and root and stuff. But I may do some pre-rooted ones and give to the community. If a big majority of our GHB avocado pits, sprout, we'll probably give away some of those guys as well. And if all those jackfruit seeds sprout, or a big majority of them, I'm not going to need like however many's in there. I don't know if it's 15 or what. So I'll keep 1 or 2 maybe, and we'll probably give away most of them. So check this out. We got another jackfruit sprouting. There's the first one. Second, actually there's a third right there. So a few videos back, I talked about thinking I had too many pomegranates trees, and then I found only 2 in pots, and we got 4 in the ground, I think. Purple Heart, Wonderful, Christina, and Afghansky. And I said that I thought I bought more. So I went back and looked at my records, and I think I do only have those 2 in the containers. Kazaki and Mednivia or something. What's weird is like one of those I had in my cart before, just a week or 2 back, and I said, okay, I'm just not going to order any. And I think it was the Mednivia or whatever, Ukrainian or Russian type. So I'm glad I didn't purchase it twice. That said, seeing that, I stand corrected, I don't have like some pomegranates more, 3 or 4 other varieties just lost in the containers here somewhere. I guess I'm going to be back open to the idea of getting more. The end of this season or the start of the season 3 of the garden vlog. Well, we'll just have to wait and see how things go. So I have up potted anyway some houseplants, 3 houseplants there. That hibiscus species, chaya, maybe a few other things. And I pulled up our starfruit. Now this is that guy that's like 7 to 9 years old. from the roots. I may have killed it because I didn't see any hair roots on it, just a long taproot. It was really deep into the bottom of the raised bed. So we might have killed it just by pulling it out, but you know, it's not doing anything in the bed. If we just put it in the shade maybe and keep it moist, it might recover, it may not. Probably, I would say a 20 or 30% chance of recovery based on me not knowing anything about it. And I pulled up this mulberry tree that was really in the way of our driveway, so it's already drooping. It's been watered. Hopefully, even if it loses its leaves, hopefully it'll just recover, pull, you know, bud out with some new buds and leaves before the frost, you know, takes the new leaves out and drops them all. I probably could have just, you know, divided that mother-in-law tongue snake plant up into like 5 or 10 different plants, but we just put it in like a 3-gallon pot from a 1-gallon. It was definitely outgrowing the 1-gallon pot, but it should be fine for another maybe season or two in that, and then we may be forced to repot it because I don't know if I want a mother-in-law tongue that's like 15 or 30 gallons, you know. It's gonna be way too heavy to move. And these 4 plants are Suriname cherries. These were the biggest ones I could find. The seedlings under and around the tree are red Suriname cherry. And we just pulled them up and we'll see how they do. There's still a few smaller ones. I figure we're gonna see how if these guys recover from being pulled without being dug with a shovel. And if they do okay, maybe we'll let the other ones get a little bit more growth. And, you know, next year, pull the rest and, you know, transplant them or put them in pots. And there's people that wants these guys, so we're going to give at least 1 or 2 away if they survive. This is my second wagon load of mostly the red hybrid jaboticabas, and there is a Jewels of Opar there. We're separating them just because we don't have enough labels. So Sabars in one place. I may have even said this earlier in the video. So I just put all the red hybrids in this pile of other plants here. It's heavy shade. Keep them shady, keep them moist until they recover. You know, they had their roots tugged on. Some of the hair roots might have been broken while we transplanted them. Let them recover and maybe give them a little bit more sun, you know, in, you know, a few weeks or so if they recover. People want to know what the difference between the Jewels of Opar and Suriname spinach is. By looking, you can tell by the leaves. But usually the Jewels of Opars bloom like crazy, and them little seed heads there, I guess they explode out and they shoot seeds everywhere, like 10 feet or something. You find plants everywhere. And this is the Suriname spinach. Much longer, thinner leaf. These guys, you know, Jewels of Opar have a fatter leaf, kind of, I wouldn't say heart shape, but got a little tip there. And instead of a tip at the end, these guys have a little dip at the end of their leaves a lot. Well, I guess today's garden vlog is going to be not too long, not too productive. I mean, I've been productive off and on today. Split my day sort of in half to do some stuff with the kids, and did gardening in the morning and in the afternoon a little bit, but most of it wasn't on camera. Hopefully tomorrow we'll see if we can get a few of the Suriname spinach things cut, you know, see how many cuttings we can take on the very few. We have a very small amount of Suriname spinach plants, but if we can get a few of them to try to root, that's going to be good. And hopefully get some of the smaller loquats in little 1-gallon pots or whatever, get them ready to give away. Some people may ask why I didn't just overwinter those jaboticabas in the containers, and that probably would have been a good idea. But the first round, when I just experimented with separating the Sabars, they were nightmares, and they weren't as old, and a lot of roots got broken. I mean, a lot of them, trying to separate them. But despite that, they still seem to survive the transplant with those root damaged plants. And wetland zone 2, and I can't really walk back to that avocado still because check this out. You can see standing water there. And you can see it's damp there, but if I put weight on it and every step I take further in that direction, the more likely my foot's going to sink and mud and water's just going to fill my shoes. But our bigger second mayhaw seedling is right there. You know, it's the longest branch is about 10 foot in the air. Is that guy going to bloom for us next year? That's a big if. Are the avocados going to survive the winter? How will our cocktail grapefruit seedlings, we got 3 in the ground, are they going to survive? These guys look really good. This guy still's a little bit yellow. You know, they're a hybrid. They don't come true to seed. What are they going to turn into? How many years do we have to wait? Is it going to be 8 like an orange? Is it going to be like 14 or 15 years like a grapefruit? Are we ever going to have enough luck with edible ginger to produce an amount that we could actually use versus just a few coming up every year? And if we use it, we're not going to have anything left to plant, you know, unless we find a way to make it work, find a way to make everything multiply, find a way to make all the plants and tubers survive and thrive. We're going to be able to find a place where the true yams, the Diascoria yams, are going to thrive, and we'll be able to actually harvest tubers to put on our plates, and plus allow them to, you know, grow and multiply. Are we ever going to make the chestnuts happy enough, even with these mycorrhizal type beds, to produce something in the wetlands? Are we going to be able to get sweet potatoes, a big enough harvest to put on the plate every year? Are we going to figure out the secret to raising carrots, you know, regular potatoes, and get back to trying sunchokes again? Things that we can always put on our plate, you know, at the end of the season, and then hopefully have enough to replant those tubers at the end of, you know, save enough tubers, I guess I'd say, to replant. But that's it for today's video. Hopefully in the next few weeks or months, we'll finish off season 1 with a bang. How about a she-bang? Take care.